Hello and welcome to Maimonides Mitzvah Moment. We've got 4 mitzvahs for tonight. Yesterday, we talked about the positive mitzvah to love your fellow Jew as yourself. Now, of course, if a non-Jew converts and becomes Jewish, then loving that convert would fall under yesterday's mitzvah. However, the first of today's mitzvot is a very interesting mitzvah. The mitzvah is to love the ger, to love the convert, which means that if you love a convert, you get 2 mitzvahs. You get the mitzvah that we studied yesterday for loving your fellow Jew, because this convert is a Jew. But because this fellow is a convert, you get a second mitzvah. So if you love someone that was born Jewish, you get 1 mitzvah. If you love a convert to Judaism, you get 2 mitzvahs. Now, the remaining 3 mitzvahs of today's lesson all come from a single verse in the Torah. It's in Leviticus, Chumash Vayikra, chapter 19. And the verse goes as follows. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavcha. You shall not harbor hatred for your fellow in your heart. Hoicheach techiach es amisecha. You shall rebuke your fellow. Loitisa alav chet, but you shall not embarrass him. So we got 3 mitzvahs in that single verse. The first mitzvah in the verse is a negative prohibition not to harbor hatred in one's heart. So if somebody did something wrong to you, just stewing in that negative feeling or being angry at that person just in your heart, ill feelings in your heart towards your fellow, there's a negative prohibition against doing that. Rather, what should you do? Well, that's the next mitzvah. The next positive mitzvah in the verse is rebuke your friend. In other words, communicate to your fellow what it is that is bothering you and try and work it out that way. But in the mitzvah of rebuking, the verse finishes with a final mitzvah and says, when you talk to your friend about something that they've done wrong, do not do it in a way that's embarrassing to the person. So the final prohibition is not to embarrass your fellow. Just important to point out that with all of these 3 mitzvahs, the application is, of course, very wide. So the mitzvah not to harbor hatred is not just only for somebody that did something that made you upset. In general, a person is not allowed to harbor hatred in their heart towards a fellow. Similarly, the positive mitzvah, the obligation to rebuke, is not only if somebody did something that upset you personally or compromised made you upset because of something that they did against you. In general, whenever a Jew sees a fellow Jew that is not that is doing something wrong as far as the fulfillment, the observance of mitzvahs is concerned, there is a positive mitzvah, there's a biblical obligation to, in a respectful way, point out to that person that that is incorrect behavior. And then finally, the negative prohibition to cause embarrassment to somebody is in any situation, not necessarily when you're rebuking somebody, but in any situation, we have to be extremely careful not to transgress the prohibition of bringing shame to our fellow.